one of the most devastating diagnoses anyone can ever be given is that of a type 1 diabetic. You're usually diagnosed very early in life, though not always. You're young, you're immature, you're not really that motivated to do what you need to do to affect your health. Sometimes you are the child of young parents who are busy, they have jobs, they love you, but at the same time, they don't really have the time or the mental effort left over to learn the endocrinology and the nutrition necessary to take care of a type 1 diabetic child. I've got a young man joining me today who was diagnosed at the age of 3. He's trying to get logged in and join me now on his cell phone. And he is going to tell you about his journey from being an adolescent and a teenager and trying to eat the American diabetes diet, often failing. But even when he followed the ADA diet, his hemoglobin A1C, his blood sugars, all those things were always out of whack, always. So while he's joining, I want you to tell me in the comments where you're watching from, what city, what state, what country. We're live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. And I'm going to bring Andrew Berger on. He's known on social media as Type 1 Berger. And I met him, I guess it's been a year ago now. And he was overweight. He had just learned about the ketogenic way of eating, low carb way of eating. And he was just getting started. He had come to a conference, and I think it was in Seattle. Maybe, I can't remember. He'll remember, I'm sure. But we chatted and talked about what his handle should be on social media. And he really felt like he was called to talk about this. And so that's what he's been doing ever since, was sharing his story on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not sure where else he is. He's trying to get signed in now. But if you know a type 1 diabetic, this may be not from my perspective, because you guys hear me all the time, but this conversation with this young type 1 diabetic may be the most important conversation that a young type 1 diabetic ever hears about why diet is so important and what dietary changes they should make in order to not only get their A1C under control, but to prevent all of the disastrous complications that come from being a type 1 diabetic whose blood sugar and insulin levels are uncontrolled. Andrew's trying to sign in. Let me try to send him an invite one more time. You guys hang with me, but please, if you know a type 1 diabetic, send them a text message. Send them an email, run across the street and grab them. If you're watching, Andrew, I'm going to send you another link. Try using that one to join with. Oh, there's Andrew now. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring Andrew on. I've rambled long enough. But please, any type 1 diabetic you know, if they can't watch it right now, this will be saved on Facebook and on YouTube. They can watch it tonight or tomorrow or next week. But please, please get every type 1 diabetic that you care about to watch this video, regardless of their age. Okay, let's see what we got. Andrew, are you there?
Do you hear me? Yes, hear me?
Sir, you fixed it.
I don't know what I did, but that's great.
I know you were sweating there for a minute.
Oh, man, it was the longest 10 minutes of my life right there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce to you Andrew Berger, a.k.a. Type 1 Berger. Andrew, I'm going to give you the floor for a minute. I want you to just kind of tell your story. Tell people your journey. We've got 900 people watching right now, and I've already put out a call to action for everybody. If they know a type 1 diabetic of any age, it's never too late. It's never too early to hear Andrew's story. So take it away, Andrew. Tell people your story.
Thank you, Dr. Berry, for having me. You know, I've been trying to do this for a little bit. Met you a year ago now. It's crazy. I saw a picture of us today, and man, it's a little. Yeah, a little bit. A little background about me. In November of 1993, I was 3 years old, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 26 years ago. I was told by doctors, eat, whatever I want, and just give insulin for it. And that lasted for quite some time. I was a happy young person in my early life, and things started to, right after college, around 2014, things started to dwindle for me. I was diagnosed with celiac. I had chronic blood sugars. I had chronic high blood sugars. Neuropathy was starting to happen. I had trouble walking for a little bit of time. I think my parents are watching and they're probably looking at each other like, I remember that. And in 2016, I actually moved out to California from New York for my dream job. And things were going great. But up until 2014, I started to see a little bit of deterioration. So one of the questions that is always asked when you go on a keto or a carnivore diet is, what is your why? You don't really just wake up and say, today I'm going to go keto. It's not the first choice in anybody's life, but there's always the why. So my why was, again, deterioration. And I went for a routine eye appointment in 2018. And everything was going well. And took one last test. My doctor said, Andrew, you might want to bring your mother in for this. I actually flew to New York just for this eye appointment. And he said, Andrew, you have a choice. He goes, your eyes are deteriorating. He goes, you have had high blood sugars for 20 years. And you have a choice. You either get on top of this disease and fix your eye problems, or you just fall apart. And he just said, good luck. And I walked out of the office, and I remember crying all the way up Fifth Avenue in New York City that day. I still didn't know what to do. At this point, I gained 50 pounds in just a year at my new job. The food that I was eating that I thought was making me happy, I was eating like 3 bags of family-sized potato chips. It was disgusting. Was making me depressed. I think you talk about this in some of your YouTube videos. I needed daily naps. My teeth were getting extremely yellow, almost turning green. And I had a binge eating disorder and a chronic carb food addiction. So what did I do? I went on Weight Watchers again for the 5th time. Now, the first time I lost 50 pounds, and then, well, I gained it back plus 10 more. I would try again. I knew it worked, so I was going to keep trying it. But for some reason, every time it got harder, and I didn't understand why. So I went on Weight Watchers, and I was going to the gym 6 days a week, move more, eat less, calorie in, calorie out. And I found a low carb podcast all by accident because I was playing my music out way too much and I was getting bored. Found a low carb podcast, this guy screaming about how bad Weight Watchers and the advice they're giving you. They said, you can't eat a piece of red meat. It will kill you tomorrow, but eat this low calorie pie filling. I mean, just the things they were telling you to do is so bad.
Fat-free and low calorie. How could it be bad?
Oh,
yeah. So you've suffered from type 1 diabetes since you were 3 years of age. And I can remember early in my medical practice, I had 2 young teenage boys who were type 1 diabetic. And it was I love both of those boys. Still know them to this day, great gentlemen now. But it was so frustrating trying to be their doctor because back then, early in my career, I did not know the power of a low-carb keto carnivore diet. I didn't know any of that stuff, right? So I would tell them, follow the American Diabetes Association diet, join Weight Watchers, go to the gym. And I was very graphic with these young men. I would say, you don't understand. Right now, you feel fine. But I'm telling you, in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, parts of your body will stop working. Yeah. And that will never work again. And one particular part of a young man's body that he really wants to work really well will stop working. And I would try every way I could to get into their brain and get in, be an earworm and get into their heart and say, dude, this is important. You got to take this seriously. And they would come back every time and their A1C would be 7, 8, 9, 10. And little did I know at that time, but they probably were following the ADA diets. They probably were eating Weight Watchers, right? But I thought, no, they're laying around eating honey buns and drinking Pepsi. I know they are because they're teenage boys. But I didn't realize then the advice I was giving was ignorant advice. I wasn't helping them at all. Because can you imagine these young men? They would try really hard, be like, okay, damn it, I'm done. I want all my parts to keep working. I'm going to do just what Dr. Berry said. And for the next 3 months, they would eat perfect ADA diet, right? And then they would come in and we'll check their A1C and it'd be up 0.5 of a point. Can you imagine the frustration? Not only for me, the doctor, I'm not the guy suffering, but here's this young man is like, no, doc, I did everything right. And my A1C went up. And that's because the dietary recommendations are stupid. So you heard a podcast.
Yeah, I heard podcasts and Vinnie Tortorich's podcast, our friend Vinnie, and he's screaming, I mean, on top of his lungs about this Weight Watchers thing. I actually called up Weight Watchers that day after I heard this and canceled. I was sold. I never heard somebody so enthusiastic about a low carb diet in my life. And I went on it, canceled. They tried to, throw me, 3 months free and this. I said, listen, I'm never talking to you guys again. And I think in like 2 months, I lost like 20 pounds. It was just obviously the inflammation. It was insane. I mean, it was just like that. So at this point, we saw dramatic weight loss, dramatic drop in blood sugars, and insulin had to be dropped down from about 110 units a day to about now I'm at about 10 units.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that more because that's something I've seen repeatedly. And I don't have to tell you how expensive insulin is. Oh. And they're always coming out with a new version that the molecule's been tweaked just enough that they can get a new patent on it. And then that's another $100 a month extra over the old insulin. So when you were transitioning from standard American ADA diet, Weight Watchers diet to low carb, did you have problems managing that on your own? Did you have a doctor that was or a nutritionist or a dietitian kind of helping you? Did you have low blood sugars?
Yeah.
What happened? Tell me about that.
So first off, I don't recommend anyone not doing this without a doctor. But I was brave, and I've had the disease for so long that I'm pretty seasoned on the treatment of low blood sugars. I have a Dexcom that rings off when I have, which is a continuous glucose monitor. Whenever my blood sugar goes low, it will tell me, and maybe 30 minutes before. So I was pretty on top of it. My doctors, one nutritionist at the doctor's was saying, I'm going to go into DKA. And, I kind of laughed and kept it moving. At this point but I did tell my doctor, which was surprised, my endocrinologist, that I was eating bacon and eggs. And I was just ready for him to just, say, you're going to, your LDL is going to go up out the roof and this. But he saw the numbers. He actually cursed. He was so excited. He just keep doing what you're doing. So eventually the control was so good you couldn't avoid it didn't matter about the food at this point to them. So because I don't think they've ever seen anybody this healthy, which I'll get into.
I agree. I totally agree. And so you had a few lows, a few highs during your transition, but you were able to manage that on your own. But I totally agree with you. If someone's a type 2 and they're injecting insulin, they just stop the insulin and go keto. You can do that overnight and everything's going to be fine. But a type 1 diabetic is different.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, it's very tricky because it's not Andrew's fault that he has to manage his own insulin with exogenous insulin, but it is his problem, and he will pay if he miscalculates that. And that's why a type 1 diabetic can absolutely benefit from keto, ketovore, carnivore, but they need to work with a doctor and just go to the doctor. Well, I'm not even going to say it. I want you. What would you recommend? There's a 17-year-old guy and a 20-year-old woman watching this right now, and they want to try this. What should they go to the doctor and say? How would you word it?
First off, I know you had this book hiding right behind you somewhere.
Yeah.
This book is the start of your new life.
Absolutely.
This book is the start of your new life. I can't say it more.
There's a link down in the show notes to it on Facebook and YouTube because I knew it was going to come up because if you're a type 1 diabetic and you don't own that book, you need that book.
Yeah, it should actually be called the Diabetes Bible. I think every type 1, actually type 2 as well. There's a lot of great information on there. I didn't do things exactly his way, but I'm actually going a little bit back to some of the things he says, which is interesting, which we'll get into, as we go along in the journey. But let's see. That book, if you're a type 1 and you've never read that book, if you're a type 2, if you're a severe type 2 at least, obviously all the Dr. Berry videos I've watched, but this book is great to have. I really recommend every type 1 to read. If you're type 1, you must read that book.
Yeah, and again, guys, there's a link down in the show notes on YouTube and up in the description on Facebook. It's Dr. Bernstein's book and there's a link. You just click it. It'll take you straight to Amazon. Buy that book today. If you don't have that book, 100% if you're type 1, and it wouldn't hurt you a bit if you were type 2 to get that book.
Yep. Absolutely. So just a quick recap. I started low carb in October of 2018. So it's been less than 2 years on low carb, but I started my weight loss journey just about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, August now. In December of 2018, I started including a 16-8 fast, which I know you tell all your patients to do. That worked wonders. I was actually in July 2019, right when we met Dr. Berry, I just started carnivore. I remember I was just like, I saw you and I was already kind of doing it. And then you just said, I've been doing it for almost a year and a half now. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I believe in it. And we'll show pictures in a little bit, what I used to look like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, August 2019, I did a 7-day fast, which doctors would have said that I wouldn't be alive to tell it.
Yeah, I can just imagine you telling an endocrinologist, "Hey, I'm gonna eat nothing but fatty meat, and I'm also gonna fast for 7 days." The poor endocrinologist would just have a stroke and die. So, I don't even know what to say to you.
I don't think I ever told them that. There's some things better left out. And recently, May of this year, I went to basically a tier 4 carnivore diet, which is beef and water only. This is something that I saw people do that have really chronic autoimmune disease. It's not for everybody. But again, I'm trying to do things now that some would say is impossible, but I think it's worth a try. I think not trying is the biggest mistake. So, we'll talk about what I'm doing exactly right now, but we can go into it now. But that I do OMAD and sometimes 2 meals a day at most. And so
OMAD, for those of you who is 1 meal a day, and most people on a keto diet or a carnivore diet ultimately wind up eating once a day or eating twice a day. That we don't eat 3 meals a day with snacks in between. That's unnecessary. And Andrew will tell you that's going to screw up your blood sugar and screw up your insulin if you're eating 3 meals a day with 3 snacks in between. That's actually what type 1 diabetics are taught. That's what doctors and dietitians are taught to teach type 1 diabetics. And then you do this math that then you calculate how much insulin you're going to need to match the amount of carbohydrates and protein you just ate. But Dr. Bernstein's book is so eloquent when he breaks that down. You can never calculate that. You can never know the insulin units that you're going to need to meet that bolus of carbs and protein. You never get it right, ever. And it's not your fault as a patient. It's the fault of the doctor who told you that was possible in the first place. You just can't do that. And so, and so Andrew can tell you as well, it just, you're never going to guesstimate how many units of insulin you need to meet the carbs and protein. It never works out.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, now I'm adopting something that's, I would say is pretty, I guess they would call it a quack for sure. But Sophia Clemens of Paleomedicina, seems to have reversed many patients with type 1, LADA, MODI patients as well, which is maturity onset of diabetes of the young, and latent autoimmune diabetes of adults. And I don't know if I'll ever get off of insulin shots, but I do think I can get down to 1 or 2 units a day. So, like I said, I'm trying everything I can do.
Yep. Have you had a C-peptide check lately to see if you're making more insulin? Because I've got 2 very interesting carnivore type 1 diabetes stories I want to tell in a minute. I'm just curious if you're following your C-peptide to see if your pancreas is maybe waking up as you fight against the autoimmune condition.
Yeah, I'm still low. I'm at a 0.2. So, but I have hope. I think we can. I'm hearing other patients of hers get to a 1.3 and
oh wow.
Yeah, like insane. I mean, again, her methods are some question it, but I think it's worth a try. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Good. Let me tell you, I had 2 gentlemen right before my clinic burned down. Type 1 diabetics. They were in their 40s. They were both very slender. They were that skinny type 1, right? And they were both carnivores. And I had one of the guys had been my patient for years, and I had seen his C-peptide go from 0.1 up to 0.3, which is still not normal, but that's moving in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
He used 10 units of Lantus at night. That's it. And he ate a carnivore diet, right? Now the other guy was a little older, and he would travel to come see me. He lived in East Tennessee, so he drove hours to come see me because he knew I knew about low carb. And he was carnivore, and he used 9 units of Lantus at bedtime. And his A1C, he brought me his old records. It was less than 0.1 for years and years. And when I saw him and checked it, it was 0.4. And so, right. And so I'm not saying that low carb keto carnivore will reverse type 1 diabetes, but I have seen 2 patients myself have a C-peptide, which is a proxy marker for insulin, right? Endogenous insulin production. Their C-peptide went from essentially 0 up to 0.3 and 0.4. And not more importantly, but very importantly, they were using 9 units of insulin a day, 10 units. That's all they were using. None during postprandial or preprandial, just bedtime long-acting insulin. Is that what you're doing now, Andrew?
I'm still giving insulin for meals, but it's such a small dose. First off, I'm off of Humalog insulin, which is the main insulin that the insurance companies love to put you on and give you 3 bottles for $5 if you are on insurance. And if you're not on insurance, they like to charge you $1,200. Without insurance, the insulin I'm on is actually like $25. So I'm on Humulin R and something called Humulin N. These are the most old school insulins you could find, especially N. I mean, my endocrinologist looked at me like I had 5 heads when I asked for Humulin N. And he said, it's too dangerous. And I said, look, trust me, I got it. And I've been using it for spikes, for protein meals, because protein takes about 6 to 10 hours to actually digest, depending on how much you eat. And that's been really working well for me. But last night I took 3 units of Tresiba long-acting insulin, and I took 5 this morning. So like 8 units altogether.
Wow. What would you estimate your dollar saving is per month from eating the old way and all the insulin you would have needed then versus being a carnivore now, which for those of you who don't know, a carnivore diet, you just eat meat or animal foods. And it's as close to 0 carb as you can get. Keto is low carb, right? Most of the time under 20 grams a day. Carnivore is as close to 0 carb as you can get.
Yep.
How much are you saving, would you say, a month?
Well, let's put things into, I'm very lucky to have insurance. So, but it would be about $1,000 a month without insurance for the Humalog. And I get 3 bottles a month of that. Now I actually have 15 bottles in my fridge just for backup.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky to be paying $5. I'm an anomaly, but the savings are it's insane. The goal is to be able to delete my prescription account on Walmart one day. So we're working on that. But it's definitely a huge savings.
Let me ask you a question, Andrew. If I could travel, because keto and carnivore, people say, oh, it's so restrictive. Somebody just said, so you can never eat pasta again. I think how Andrew would answer that is, I don't want to ever eat pasta again. I want to keep my retinas functioning. I want to keep all 10 of my toes. I want to keep my kidneys. I want all my body parts to work. So no, I don't want any damn pasta. Thank you. If I could go back in time and go back to when you were 15 years old or 17 years old and just pop up out of the blue and say, Andrew, I got to tell you something. If you will start this diet right now, not only will you get your blood sugar under control, but you're not going to have retinopathy, which you're going to have in your 20s. You're going to start developing that in your 20s. I'm from the future. I know. I'm telling you. Would that, because the motivation of teenagers is different than the motivation of adults. You're a young professional, and you want to keep. If you're going to put out and make bank, you're going to have all your body parts working. But teenagers, we want to party, we want to drink, we want to chase this girl or this boy. Would you have heard that message at 15, 16, 17?
That's tough. I don't know. My mom thinks no, but I think I think it, like somebody else, I speak to a lot of type 1s regularly, and they just said it just takes a mishap for you to change. And I think things were going, well then, but maybe if you would have showed me the data, I would have said, all right, let's give this a try. I can't believe now everything I want to get into because of this. Like I want to become a personal trainer / licensed sports nutritionist. I can't believe that. There's just so many things have changed from all this. But it's just very, who I don't know. That's a really good question. I wish I could, answer.
The reason I ask is I have so many parents who are on this journey with me on Facebook and YouTube who have young children who are type 1 diabetic. And I'm always trying to find the motivational hook that I can, because I remember my 2 teenage patients, right? Early in my career, what would I say to them to try to get them to go, oh crap, this is important. I better do this, regardless of, oh, I can't drink the wine cooler. Oh, okay. Well, I'm always looking for that motivation, how to get into an adolescent or a teenager's head and say, hey, this is a big deal.
I mean, what's interesting is like, if I knew I was going to feel this good, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like this is the best I've ever felt in my entire life since being diagnosed at 3 years old. I don't know anything differently. But now I feel like, wow, this is what life is supposed to feel like.
Yes, absolutely. And you've got some before and after pictures I want you to share here in a minute. We got a question from D. Mulkey. It says, where can I find the data for type 1? So Dr. Bernstein's book, there's a link down in the show notes. There's also a Facebook group called Type 1 Grit, and I've got a link to that in the show notes as well if you're on Facebook. That those guys, they follow Dr. Bernstein's method, which I don't agree with every single thing Dr. Bernstein says, but I 99.9% agree with everything he says, and I can't even express to you the amount of respect I have for him. Once you read his life story, he's a type 1 diabetic. Yep. Basically because he figured it out. You eat low carb and it all gets better. And he had to go to medical school. He wasn't even a doctor. He had to go to medical school to get the medical establishment.
And he's 86. He's I think he's the longest living type 1 diabetic.
Facebook lives all the time.
Yeah, and he's in incredible shape. I think he works out every day for 2 hours. It's he's insane. Also, I guess a good motivation, a way to motivate people is look at Halle Berry. She's a type 1 for 30 years, and she's been keto since her diagnosis. And everyone, it's not me who thinks this. It's everyone on her comments on Instagram says, how do you do it? They don't understand how she looks so good for her age. And she's not as young as she was 20 years ago.
No, but she still looks great.
Yeah.
And am I the only person who wonders why Halle Berry, who's super famous and super beautiful, Halle, if you want to come on and do a live with me, 100%, just shoot me a DM. Am I the only human on the planet who wonders why Halle Berry is not a spokesperson for the American Diabetes Association? Why would the ADA not want someone as obviously healthy, beautiful, intelligent, successful as her? Why would they not want her as a spokesperson? I can't figure that out. And I've tweeted to the ADA several times. I'm surprised they haven't blocked me yet. And said, Halle Berry, why would you not have her be your spokesperson? And I'd never get a reply. So I don't know.
Yeah. One thing I do want to bring up is, for me, I think this is a big deal, and I think a lot of people would benefit, is exercise really helped me as well. I'm pretty sure you know Dr. Ben out in Arizona, but his workout plan really changed my life, because I hated going to the gym eventually. I was just getting tired of it. And now I work out twice a week for 15 minutes and it works. It's actually, I have triceps now, and they're coming in, they're getting there. And, I just think,
when I met you, where was that at? Was that in Seattle?
That was in San Diego about a year ago.
San Diego. Yeah. So when I met Andrew, he didn't have a six-pack. He had a keg.
Oh, I don't know if I have a six-pack yet.
But now he's got triceps. Do you have some before and afters that you can share on the screen, and I'll pop them up if you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you have them, or do you want me to?
No, I don't. If you can pop them up,
yeah,
I will share them. Yeah, you just hit share screen and then pick what you want to share.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah.
If you can get them, we'll show them. If not, that's okay too.
No, I got it.
Perfect. Okay, let me see.
Just give me a second. You keep talking.
Sure. Yeah. No problem. Let's see. Let me see if I've got a question here. Guys, again, let me admonish you, if you know a type 1 diabetic, if you love a type 1 diabetic, either out in the open or secretly, please share this video with them. Send them a direct message, send them an email, write them an old letter, and use the postal system, because, we need to support our local postal system. But please get this information in the hands of a type 1 diabetic. If you know, buy them a copy of Dr. Bernstein's book for their birthday. That'd be probably the best gift that you could ever give a type 1 diabetic.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 1 second. I'm going to share my screen.
It'll pop up, and then I'll be able to share it up once you get it.
Okay. You see it?
Yep. Okay. Now I'm going to add this to the screen. Okay, guys. Make that full screen. There you go. There you go. Now let's see how I can make this. There we go. Let's do that. So that's the guy I met in San Diego a year ago.
Okay. Yeah, at that point I was 203 pounds. When I met you, I was about 170. But
okay,
you'll see those pictures. I have that as well.
Okay, so this is type 1 diabetic, and were you following ADA or Weight Watchers, or what were you doing at this point, or are you just eating the Cheetos?
Yeah, I was eating the Cheetos. There was that. Let's look at 1 second. So this is a good side by side. Well, can you see this?
Yep. Okay.
So that was the
2018, 203 pounds.
Yep.
October 2018, 185. April 2020, 147. June 2020, 133. And so you can imagine when Andrew sent me his picture to do this live, I was like, he looks vaguely familiar, but and then I saw the before. I was like, oh yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, that was. Let's see. I think there's a picture of you and I. This is a year ago.
That's a year ago. That's the guy. Yep. And we were trying to figure out what his social media handle should be.
You figured it out.
Yeah, we figured it out, and it's working pretty well. Yeah, I totally agree. Congratulations. That's awesome, man.
Thank you. I know I remember you saying, when you're ready, we're going to go live. And I was bugging you, but I had to get it done. People need to hear the story. And there's more to it. We're not done yet. And then this was this is crazy too.
Yeah.
You can see that. So these are just some of the pictures. But
so in this picture on the right, or on the left, he's basically eating as many carbohydrates a day as he wants to, and then he's attempting to do the calculation and then inject enough insulin to compensate for the carbs and a little for the protein.
Yep.
And when you use too much insulin, whether it's endogenously coming from your pancreas or exogenously coming from a needle, it doesn't matter. Insulin is insulin. It's a fat storage hormone. And the very thousands of type 1 diabetics out there are also insulin resistant because they're eating so many carbs, they're using so much insulin, they down-regulated the insulin receptors on their cells.
Yep.
And now it's like they're a type 1 and a type 2 with metabolic syndrome. They're completely screwed.
I was type 2. Robert Sivis said that to me at the conference. And when I showed him all my when I told him about what was going on, he said, "Congratulations, your type 2 is in remission." I was giving probably about 30 to 35 units per meal in that picture before on the left, which is just insane. I was resistant to the insulin I was giving. Also, I wanted to bring something up that you mentioned. You talked about, about the pasta thing. This is actually the most liberating way of eating I've ever ate in my entire life. I used to feel like, there was all these choices to eat and I didn't know what to do. Now food is such an afterthought. Coming from someone who binge ate carbs to now doesn't think about food, that is one of the most beautiful things that happened. If you would have told, I was just doing this to lose weight. I didn't realize that my sugars would come down, my depression would go away, my teeth would get whiter. I didn't realize any of this. And I mean, you also lost so much weight since that picture. I didn't even realize until we're talking just now, but it's insane, Yeah,
I keep moving slowly towards my ideal body weight. And I'm like you, I'm not really trying to lose weight. I'm just eating as much fatty meat as I can hold once or twice a day. And that's it. And then all of a sudden my body says, okay, everything's fine. We're going to drop another 5 pounds. We're going to drop another 7 pounds. And I'm like, okay, that's fine with me.
Yep. And then everyone says, oh, you're going to die from your cholesterol being so high. So I do want to just bring this up. I'm looking at my recent lipid panels. My total cholesterol, 3 checks meant amazing. So let's just see. 1 check was really good. So total cholesterol right here, lipid panel standard 179. My HDL, my triglycerides are a 1-to-1 ratio. Even the LDL, I wish was higher. Everyone says, oh, you want a low HDL, a low LDL. I wish it was a little bit higher, actually. I think it actually prevents people from disease.
Oh, interesting theory.
The CRP is an inflammation marker. This was very exciting at 0.5. I'm trying to get it to a 0.1, but it's a great start. Let's keep looking. My glucose was in extremely normal range at 73.
That's nice.
My A1C below is a 4.9.
Normal kidney function.
Yep.
Normal liver function. And A1C 4.9. That's so sexy. I love it.
It's amazing. So I'm just gonna. I think this is my vitamin D. Oh nope, I have more. This is my, I think, red blood cells, which is pretty good. I'm a huge advocate for organ meat. I think liver is changing the world. I know you talk about that. I
agree.
Liver is there's a great T-shirt that says "Liver is the new kale."
Yes.
It's definitely way more nutritious, much more bioavailable in the vitamins. And you can see my vitamin B12, which most vegans, vegetarians can't get without supplementing. I don't take any supplements. Was almost 900. My folate was normal. And then the last thing was, this is the big talk, was vitamin D. can get a little bit higher, but it was in normal range. Most people are in the deficient.
Yep.
I was in the optimal. So
very well done. Very well done. And so anybody out there listening, this is all possible. I'm not special. Andrew's not special. We just, both of us kind of accidentally happened and tripped upon this low carb keto carnivore thing. And once you really start to think about it and look into it, you're like, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I'm going to try that. And once you try it, you just don't ever go back, because you'd be an idiot if you ever went back. Will you ever not eat at least keto or carnivore?
No, not even a chance. It doesn't make sense.
So you don't feel deprived. You don't feel like you're missing out on the pasta or on the Danishes. Literally how you feel on a daily basis. It's so amazing that you literally don't miss the pizza crust or any of that.
Not even a little bit. And even the smell, like the Kroger, Ralph's near my house, they're always frying chicken, and the canola oil smell, seed oils are so rancid.
Yeah.
They used to smell good to me, but now that what I know about them, I think it shows you how mental a lot of this stuff is.
Sylvia wants to know, do you take any supplements at all? No supplements at all, Sylvia. How about that? So that now you get to save even more money and just not take any supplements.
Yeah, no. I mean, I do have like fasting magnesium, like the Element with Rob Wolf brand stuff. I know there's Keto Chow. It's great. Yep. But I don't feel I need that anymore. Any of that stuff. So
and a lot of people needed to transition to keto.
Yeah.
And I eat fat bombs. I used all the keto shakes, but now I never need to touch any of that stuff.
Yeah, no. And you are what your diet is. So like, my skin's cleared up since that picture. Your skin's cleared up from that picture. Yep. I know you get a little bit of sun. The funny thing is I haven't used sunscreen in a year.
Again, I was just talking about this on the podcast earlier. So you found you can stay out in the sun longer.
Oh, I go out in the sun for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half a day, and I don't think I'm burned. Do I look burned? No. Right. Okay, just making sure, Doc.
Sun 5 times longer than I used to could. I used to be a guy who would say, "Hey Siri, wake me up in 10 minutes" when I was on the beach. So because then when I got my alarm, I had to go get under the umbrella, or I would ruin the vacation because I would be miserable the rest of the time with the sunburn. I can play with the kids on the beach 5 times longer now, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at everything at this moment today, I'm about 75 pounds down. My A1C when I started was about an 8. I'm now at 4.9%. That's not a fake 4.9%. I got it in 2 different blood tests 2 months apart, which I know it's usually 3 months, but it didn't come back 5 or whatever. So
excellent.
I went from about 45% body fat to 17% body fat, which is insane.
I've actually had patients, Andrew, come to me and who are keto, and they would have went to see the endocrinologist. And when the endocrinologists would see their A1C under 5, they would freak out and tell the patient, literally, this is very dangerous. It's dangerous to have an A1C this low. And they're like, what are you talking about? How is it dangerous? It's a 3-month average. It's not an acute measurement. But the endocrinologists, they've never seen an A1C under 5, right? Ever in their whole career. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I'll never forget the nurse practitioner at my endocrinologist's office said to me, there's a study out that's showing that an A1C below 6, there's no benefit. And I definitely had a few words I'm not going to say on this.
The study they're talking about, I don't know if you've read it or not, Andrew, but what the study actually showed was that aggressive control with medication, and the medications worked by raising your insulin. So it was either injecting insulin or taking something like glyburide that caused you to make more insulin. Aggressively lowering A1C with medication was not beneficial.
Exactly.
It didn't study diet at all.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was so upset. She knew I was upset, and she goes, "Well, I'm just supposed to show you the information." I said, "Well, stop showing that information to people because it's BS." So right now, my blood sugars run from 65 to 95 most of the time. Right now, post meal, I'm 89, a little higher than I would like, but I'll take it.
Oh, that's damn good, Andrew.
Yeah, I know. I'm such a perfectionist. It's I just really want to do everything in my power to it's not really about me anymore. I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to tell people the narrative that they could change their life. It's really. I mean, I'm figuring it out. I'm okay. I'm ready to push this message to everybody.
Good. Big guy says 89 is a dream. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I had an 89. That's awesome. Yeah. But I love it that you felt immediately compelled when you figured this out to start sharing this, didn't you? To start.
Yeah. Took me a little time, but I knew I had to share it. I just wanted to get it to even better. Like when we met last year, you were telling me, make sure people hear your story because they need to hear your story. My story then was pretty good. Now it's amazing. So that's why I was saying we got to do this now. We got to get this message out. Type 1 diabetics are the most lost. People don't talk about them ever. And it's because it's a very hard to understand condition. Type 2, we can try to get people off of, it's a lot easier to get people off of, insulin or drugs because they're just insulin resistant. If they didn't burn out their beta cells, we can get them back pretty easily. Type 1 is a very tricky thing that most doctors don't even want to talk about. True. So it's pretty, we're pretty left out. I'll say that, but it's, it's people, it's doctors like you who talk about us, Cyrus. These are the guys that are changing.
And here's part of the problem, Andrew. Type 1 diabetics are actually a very small percentage of the entire diabetic community.
But it's funny you say that because you're seeing a lot more of the MODI and LA. I think it's LADA or LADA. Absolutely. Maturity onset of diabetes of the young. You're seeing. I mean, that to me is actually just type 2 diabetes plus. It's or 1.5 as you've called it before. I personally think if you do the right things, you can get off of that as well because these are all new chronic diseases. But I think type 1, when I got it, was reversible. Then if they early on, and you know what? Maybe I'll be the first. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out in the universe. I might be the first, one of the first guys to have it for 30 years and be able to, recreate some type of beta cells that I'm maybe I'll get it up to a 1.0 or 1.3 on my sleep peptide, and then I can have maybe a pancreatic transplant because then it won't, a pancreatic transplant won't work now because autoimmune will just kick it out again. Right. But let's say I get it back up a little bit, you never know. So just a thought. I'm just putting it out there in the world. I'm not saying it's.
Please be that guy. Please be the first guy.
I would. We're working on it. My diabetic retinopathy right now is reversing. I'm seeing better and better every single day.
Everybody, shut up. Put down your phone. Listen carefully. Say that again, Andrew.
My diabetic retinopathy is reversing. It's 2 years ago. It was the inevitable. I'm going to need shots in my eyes. I'm going to say it again for people that don't have diabetes, shots in my eyes. And now my retinologist has said to me, come back in 6 months. Before it was once a month. It was, okay, you know what? This is pretty good. Come back next month. No, we're at 6 months now is my next appointment. So my teeth are getting whiter. I do believe that that's not from my old Sensodyne toothpaste that I don't use anymore. I actually use coconut oil. It's probably the only thing that's not carnivore in my diet, but I'm not actually ingesting it. But I Dr. Al Dannenberg he's great on if you have bad teeth, it's actually because of poor diet, bad microbiome health. 100%. So I've cured my depression. I'm happier than ever. Everyone says, even though I'm bald now, I look younger. That's
100%.
crazy, which is just insane. And like I said before, eating is a second thought. This is the most liberating way of eating. And lastly, I'm lifting really heavy. Well, unfortunately, there's no weights. I'm using resistance bands right now because of all my gyms are closed near me. But I'm lifting. I was doing when I started. I was doing 60-pound leg presses. Now I'm at 200-pound leg presses. I'm deadlifting 185 pounds. When I started, I was doing 70. So I do think exercise is burning the candle in both directions versus one. So I know it's, for some guys it's a little bit harder. So exercise might just be getting up from the couch 20 times a day. That it depends on where your activity and exercise level is. So
I totally agree. Yeah.
I'm just now.
And so retinopathy was the only complication that you know of that you had.
I'm pretty sure I had neuropathy and was starting to happen. I don't have that now. Sometimes, like, if I have my foot up for too long, I'll get like a little, but I think that's not neuropathy. I think that's, but there was a time I had a lot of trouble walking, and I lived in New York, and I walk everywhere, and I wasn't walking for a while because I had some trouble. So I think I was reversing. I think I reversed that. It was minimal, but I was going to have it regardless. I don't think I would have been alive in 6 years if I was eating the same way. Personally, I think I was in a really bad shape.
Yep.
Now, something I'm looking into is, like I was telling you earlier, I'm going for my licensed primary sports nutritionist certificate and physical training certificates. Again, I have a message I have to tell people about because I was extremely sick, and now I am reversing that. So I continue to research low carb in the low carb space daily. And my new big thing is seed oils. I think they are probably no one in this world should be eating them, including gluten and probably dairy. Those are two things I'm not convinced people should be eating on a daily basis or ever.
I totally understand. So what do you eat in a typical day? Holly asked this question, and I think everybody would like to hear the answer to that. Give us a typical day of when you eat and what you eat.
Well, things are a little different for me right now because I'm looking at a different approach with Zofia Clemens, but I eat protein and fat at every meal. Right now, I'm still doing beef only, but that would consist of like a ribeye steak and more fat on a 2-to-1 protein fat to protein ratio. But that's something I'm doing because I'm trying to reverse chronic autoimmune disease. So if I wasn't, I mean, there was times I would eat 3 or 4 pounds of meat in a day. Now it was a lot harder to control blood sugars that way. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but if you're not if you're trying to reverse type 2 diabetes, personally, I think you could do it with, eating 1 to 2 pounds of meat per day and doing OMAD. But I'm pretty much, I'm eating beef mostly at my meals and a much higher fat ratio. And a little tip about fat, about getting it, the butchers throw it out. I have gotten very close with the butchers, Dave, Frankie. I mean, they know me by first name basis because I'm the only guy that goes in there asking for fat, and they're so happy to give it away to me because they throw it out. Ask your butcher, even if it's at a Kroger, it doesn't have to be a 10-star organic grass-fed, grass-finished butcher. You can get fat trimmings for free. I mean, at most they'll charge you $1, but no, they look at me like I have 4 heads. They're so happy to give it to me. So, I mean, at one point I had I went back from my Ralph's and we're with Kroger, depending on the market you live in. And he said, "Oh, I have a gift for you." And the butcher walked out with 8 pounds of of fat trimmings. I had to walk back with it 'cause I like to walk to the supermarket instead of drive, and it's just kind of funny. So that's a really big pro tip. Also, suet is pretty inexpensive. You go to a butcher. I just started getting into suet. By the way, I'm looking at my CGM. I'm 84 right now, which would be arguably the best blood sugar you could be. Dr. Bernstein says 83. I'll take an 84 for sure. So that's why I said, give me a second, Doc. I'll tell you the better number in a few.
I love it. Yeah, I went to buy some lamb chops from a local butcher, and he laid these beautiful rack of chops up on there, and he started to wrap it up, and he was like, "Oh, hang on a second." He took it over to the saw, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He said, let me trim some of this fat off. And I was like,
"Oh, no.
Better not trim my fat off, brother." And he's like, "Oh, you want it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I want it. What's wrong with you? It's what, sheep fat? Yeah, I want it. Come on." So everybody, he's exactly right. Even at the bigger box stores, if they have a meat guy, because some of them don't even have a meat guy at all, much less a butcher, but they will make up special blends of ground beef. If you're like, "Hey, I want 60, 40, I want it to be as fat as it can possibly be," they'll do that. They'll give you the fat trimmings, and you can render that down for the most beautiful lard or beef tallow you've ever seen. You just you need to be friends with the meat guy. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Become friends with the meat guy. Don't use processed seed oils. Use hard fats, preferably beef tallow. I recommend. I just think that's probably the best, but there's lard. Lard is great.
They have codes at the supermarket for both beef and pork fat trimmings, but the problem is nobody ever asked for it, so they just throw it away. But they'd be happy to sell it to you for $1 or $2 if you just asked.
I don't even think they care to sell it. They literally just throw it out. I'm 3 for 3 right now with butchers on fat trimming. So suet they charge for, but actual fat trimmings they cut off like a ribeye or whatever, they've been giving it to me. So that's a fat pro tip.
Sweet. I love it. Andrew, we're about to wrap up this hour. I want you to wrap this up for somebody, a brand new, just been diagnosed a few months back with type 1. They got given all the handouts, and they went to the new type 1 class. They've been on the American Diabetes Association website. Break this down so they can understand, and give them simple steps, simple instructions, however you want to give it to them. Help them understand how to get from, because, a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic, they're like, "Well, I'm screwed. I'm never going to be healthy. They'll be chopping my legs off. I'm going to be on dialysis. I'll be blind." Give them hope, because they're 100% there's hope, and help them find their way out of that confusing forest into the light.
Yep. The quick way to say that is it doesn't have to suck. You are in control of your destiny. All that stuff they give you at the doctor's office, respectfully throw it out. Throw it out. It's crap. There is so much great information. Follow Type 1 Grit. Dr. Berry is an incredible source. I want to thank you, because through this journey, I watched your videos, and I remember the first time I met you, I said, I've watched like every single one of them, and I'm not here without you right now. So thank you so much. Keep doing the great work that you do. But yeah, throw all that stuff out from your doctor.
If it has a little sticker that says from the American Diabetes Association,
throw it out.
Garbage.
It's not good. Nothing with a label. I really recommend it shouldn't have more than one ingredient with food. And there's a great type 1 community out there. There's also a type 1 carnivore group on Facebook. I think it's called Type 1 Diabetic Carnivore Group. Take a look at that.
Send me a link to that, and I'll add it to the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely do that. And also, if you want to follow me, I actually encourage people to email me and tweet me or Instagram me. It could be on a regular reply or in a comment or a DM, but please reach out to me. I will answer every question I can. This is not about me anymore. So on Instagram and Twitter, it's type 1 Berger, and my email is type 1 Berger, Berger gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions to, because it's, again, we're trying to push the knowledge out there that you could change everything in your life and feel a way that you've never felt before in your life. So I just want to make sure that people know that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story. When I first met you in San Diego, I knew that you were the guy that was literally going to help lead type 1 diabetics out of the wilderness. And that's why I put that bug in your ear. And I said, hey, you need to step up and share what you're doing. And here you are, you're doing it. And
Thank you.
I want you to never stop doing this, because so many type 1 diabetics are misled by well-meaning people. There's not a conspiracy. Their doctor means well. Their dietitian means well. They just don't know what the hell they're talking about right now. But with people like Andrew Berger out there, we're going to teach them, not from the top down, but from the bottom up. That shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it's going to have to be.
You know what? I'm here for the challenge. And I said it in another talk. I said, I'm dedicating my life to science, whether it's my body. I don't think anything I'm doing is harmful at all. And if I feel like it's harmful, I'm going to eat a steak. I'm not worried about harming. I really, truly believe this is the way to live life. If you're sick or you have an autoimmune disease, we can change the world. I truly believe that. And we'll keep hopefully there's 10 more of me that are doing this and changing their outcomes.
You keep running your mouth, there'll be 10 more of you, then there'll be 100 more of you. It'll grow exponentially. So that's why I told you in San Diego, and I'll tell you again today, share your story and help other people reach the health that you now enjoy. You enjoy that health, but you earned it. But your job is to help other people understand. That's your job, brother.
Yeah, and I'll see you in a month at the PhD summit. I bought my ticket yesterday, so
sweet, man, excellent.
Yeah, they're super inexpensive. I have $37 for a ticket.
Yep, and you get a free T-shirt.
Oh yeah, I wrote the size. I don't know if you'll have that size, a small.
Oh, you got a small now. Okay, yeah, you weren't a small in San Diego, brother.
That was a large. That's amazing.
Andrew Berger, aka Type 1 Berger, with an E, not with a U. Go follow this guy. He said email him, so do it.
Please.
Yeah,
please fill up my inbox.
Yeah, fill his inbox up with questions. This guy's going to help you understand. And then when you've reached the point Andrew's at, then you can start helping people, because that's how we're going to take over this messed up world. We're going to do it one person at a time. It's a grassroots movement. You got it, brother. Thank you so much for joining me, and thanks to everybody else for sharing this video, because you could literally save a type 1 diabetic's life by sharing this video. And it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with Andrew Berger's story. So thanks for joining us. Feel free to share this. It will be available for replay on YouTube and Facebook. So if somebody can't watch it now, they can watch it later. Thanks for joining us, guys.